doing 3 and 4.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar for the International Virtual Science Symposium. My name is Julie Malmberg. I'm glad to have you here today. Today, we're doing a webinar on badges for the Globe International Virtual Science Symposium, and we are joined by Matt Silberglitt and Svetlana Darche from West Ed, and we're excited to hear about the badges. So I'll turn it over to you.
Hi there, everyone. This is Svetlana Darche from West Ed. We've been privileged to work with the GIO on the badges program, and we're really excited to tell you more about it. So what are badges? Badges are a way of flagging accomplishment for children that's a little bit different from how grades are given out to students. So why use badges? Badges combine motivation along with assessment. We want assessment to be motivating, and students can choose the kind of accomplishments that they want to have rated. Badges promote student choice and skill development, so they have multiple choices among the kinds of badges that they can seek based on their particular interests and skills. Badges also acknowledge learning in any environment, so they can be used in school environments or out of school environments, so that works really well for schools or for clubs and so forth that are implementing Globe outside of classrooms. Badges allow for multiple pathways to mastery. That sort of implies that kids have lots of different interests and abilities, and we want to make sure that all of their abilities are validated within the Globe community. And badges are also used in education and for certification in industry. So oftentimes, industry actually recognizes badges and accomplishments that go beyond what classrooms acknowledge. And these are the kinds of skills that we want to make sure that students attain in preparation for future careers in STEM, in science and math fields, as well as in their classroom work. So Matt's going to tell you a little bit about the point system and how that's going to work for the International Science Fair.
Thanks, Svetlana. This is Matt Silberglitt from West Ed. I've been working with Julie Malmberg for the last couple of years on rubrics and badges for the International Virtual Science Symposium, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the badges that we've been using, as well as introduce a new badge that we're planning for this year. Overall projects are scored on a 4-star badge. That's our merit-based student research badge. And it's merit-based because students really earn the 1 to 4 stars based on the things that they do in their projects. And there are no limit to the number of projects that can earn that top ranking, which is another part of that merit-based approach. We also have optional badges that students can pick when they submit to the International Virtual Science Symposium. They let us know which badges their project is designed to meet, and they describe how their project meets those badges. And that's one of the changes we want to do for this year, make sure that students let us know how the badge was earned in their report. They can earn up to 3 out of 6 additional badges. You're seeing 5 of them here, and we'll talk about each one of those separately, and then we'll also introduce our 6th and new optional badge. Also, as part of the International Virtual Science Symposium, qualifying projects are eligible for a drawing to get travel support to attend the Globe annual meeting. And in order to qualify, students' projects need to earn that 4-star student research badge and at least 2 of the optional badges. So this slide shows you the text that the judges see as they're evaluating those projects for each one of the badges. Again, there are 6 of them. Students can pick up to 3, and out of those 3, they would need at least 2. They would need to achieve 2 of those successfully in order to qualify. So collaboration is about team members and their roles, how students contribute to the project, and how they take advantage of that collaboration. Community impact is about choosing something locally, an issue that really drives the project, and also seeing that that project can have an impact or does have an impact on the community. Connecting to a STEM professional means collaborating with a scientist, engineer, or other STEM professional, and we ask students to describe how that really helped them, how it enhanced their research. In addition to doing scientific inquiry in GLOBE projects, we also recognize that students may be taking an engineering approach or an engineer's view of a particular problem and designing a solution. So we're looking for students that prefer to do that and recognizing that type of research as also valid in addition to the inquiry. Our new badge is Exploring STEM Careers. And this is a way for students to show how their research relates to STEM careers. And then last on this list, but not the last badge actually, is the interscholastic connection. And here we're looking for students to work either with other schools or schools in other countries and really think about how they can answer the research questions better if there is a collaboration. And with that, we'll go into each of the badges. I'll turn it back over to Svetlana.
Thanks. So we're going to start with the collaboration slide, and you'll see that each of the slides that follow, we have kind of the purpose for why this badge was created, a few key ideas about strategies for implementing attainment of this badge, and they're not exhaustive, so we're just putting these out for suggestions. And then the third little section is about what students may want to document as part of their providing evidence to the raters regarding how they actually attain this badge. So starting with collaboration, you'll see that the purpose, collaboration, as you know, is now widely accepted as a really important part of high quality research efforts. And it's not, obviously students need to work alone as well, but they also need to work in oftentimes multinational teams. So the purpose really here is to put this skill in high relief. It's considered to be a 21st century skill. Key implementation ideas. We want to make sure that every student actually has the opportunity to play a variety of roles in a team, because every role, whether it's a leadership role or a fellowship role or a note-taking or investigative role, all of those are really integral to a successful team effort. So being intentional about the roles that students take is very important. So it's not always the same person who's collecting the data, for example, or the same person noting the data. We also, this is also a great opportunity for students to develop project management skills as well as interpersonal skills. And when we say project management, those are time management, being able to pace themselves over the course of the project development, knowing how to meet deadlines, deal with unforeseen circumstances and adapt quickly and so forth. And the interpersonal skills are, of course, how to get along with the team members, how to resolve conflicts if there are any. Hopefully there won't be, but it's real. Those are genuine and important skills to develop. So we encourage the teams to and the teachers to encourage these kinds of skills. And to document the kind of evidence you may want to provide are who the team members were, and actually describe the roles that students played and how they each contributed to the team. So what the example we have here are students from Mahopac High School who were looking at winter's impact on New York City drinking water. They were looking at the difference between conductivity of the water when salt was used on roads versus brine. And each of the team members played a distinct role in making that project successful. So you'll be able to find more information in the notes about the specific projects that are highlighted here. Okay, next slide. Now, next slide. Okay, so community impact. As you know, many GLOBE projects have huge community impact, and I remember particularly a project from France that was where students presented, where they were collecting water data and realized that the pollution that they were noticing, or some of the factors that they were noticing in the water, was actually going to influence the oyster industry that was in the bay where they were measuring the water, and were able to make a presentation to the local town council about their findings. These are the kinds of things that really provide meaning and purpose for students in doing the research. Many students are are motivated inherently by the love of science, but others really find it, particularly adolescents, developmentally, it's a very strong motivating factor to actually be able to impact the world around them. So we want to promote the use of data to solve real problems, and we want to promote students' agency in the actual problem solving. So a couple of ideas for implementing this, this badge is have students identify a community issue in advance, or you can see what kinds of issues emerge as the students are actually collecting the data and looking at their findings. But you want to make sure that it's really relevant to what's going on in the community. And it doesn't have to be local community, it can be global community as well. And if possible, either early on or even later, request to share the data and the results with the community members and have the students elicit feedback from the community about the research. This is hugely, again, I don't want to be redundant, but it's very motivating for students to get that kind of feedback from their community members. And also it will often lead to additional projects. We have students in California who presented their findings about our local community, and 2 of them were then offered paid internships with the city government shortly thereafter because the city officials were so impressed with their work. So here we have students from Trinidad and Tobago who examined surface temperature to understand the effects of urbanization, and they presented those findings as well. They found, varying temperature levels with hard surfaces versus impermeable surfaces, and we're gratified to see how the community responded to that. The kinds of information you want to document for a badge would be what was the impact or the potential for impact. Obviously, the students don't always know directly what the impact may be, but at least the potential for impact and the presentations that they may have made to any community groups. And ideally, if there was a response from the community or any community members individually to their work, that would be something worth documenting.
And I'll just add, Svetlana, for this particular project, students really noticed how changes in rural to urbanization and changes in the surfaces as a result really were affecting the microclimate in the area where they live in Brazil Village. And in fact, to the point where it was affecting the school day, the school changed the schedule because of the heat during the day following this change in surfaces. And so they took it upon themselves to verify that and also to report back to the community a detailed description of the extent to which the urbanization in this area is affecting the microclimate of the community.
Right, so you can see where the repercussions would have gone much further even than their own community. Thank you for adding that, Matt. Okay, so connecting to a STEM professional. As you all know, the Globe Implementation Office created a couple of years ago the Globe International Science Network. There's been widespread acknowledgement in the Globe community for many years that the tremendous value of young people connecting with real working scientists. And they, in fact, themselves become working scientists, but just like in any profession, they're mentored by adults who are ahead of them in that career trajectory. So the idea of connecting to a STEM professional is, this goes beyond, just to be clear, beyond the interaction that a team may have with a scientist as their project is being rated, right? So toward the end of the rating process, there's often an interaction with the person, with the judge who's looking at their project. We're talking about bringing a STEM professional into the project development right from the get-go, if possible. It gives students an opportunity to actually engage with somebody who has expertise in a particular area. It also gives them an opportunity to observe not only the content knowledge that the professional has, but what skills they're using in as scientists, right? Are they working in teams themselves? Are they collaborating with others? Are they communicating in certain ways? Where are they presenting at conferences and so forth? So observing those skills. And they also in turn receive encouragement from the older scientists in their role as young scientists. So a couple of things that you may want to keep in mind from an implementation perspective is to look for STEM professionals through the GISN. And if you can't find anybody there, or if you prefer, you can find scientists in your local community. Obviously, if the students can have face-to-face interaction with scientists, that's extremely beneficial. And explain to them, be proactive about the kinds of things that you want to learn. The students in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, connected with several different scientists as they were developing their project. And I wanted to just read a little bit from their abstract. They sought out the encouragement and help of Danielle de Stark, who's the Globe coordinator from France, and the staff who manufacture the Cali 2 aerosol photometer. They also worked with NASA scientist Dr. Margaret Pippin for answering aerosol questions, and they worked with another Globe partner who updated them on their aerosol research, Michel Pédurard from France as well. So you'll see that, so they connected with 4 different scientists who all had a specific perspective on their project that was really beneficial. The kind of thing that you would want to document in a project for the STEM professional badge would be, who was the professional with whom the students interacted, and what did they actually learn from that interaction? So this group did a nice job in their abstract highlighting that, and any particular aha moments and learning from those professionals is really valuable. And the ability to document that actually adds a dimension of learning also, because sometimes students don't even realize what they're learning, and being able to write it down, I think, is really helpful. Okay. So interscholastic connection pertains to both a school connecting with another school, possibly in their own community, across the country, in their own country, or across the globe. And Globe, as you know, is unique in offering this opportunity. The community would like to encourage more and more collaboration across schools. So it provides an opportunity to compare data across sites. It provides also an opportunity to connect with peers and share the excitement for learning. So students can, from one group, can connect with kids from another country who have similar interests, who have similar backgrounds, who have similar cultures, and share the excitement of doing this work together. It also allows students to learn about each other's cultures. Again, Globe is unique in this. Once they share data, they can also talk about what's going on in their economy, what's going on in their culture and politically and so forth. So it's a wonderful opportunity for mutual learning and exchange. And for teachers, it's an opportunity to also connect with the social science work that they're doing. So in California, for example, we're working with groups of teachers in high schools, a science teacher plus a social studies teacher and an English teacher, for example. And the social studies teacher is also linking. We have Antioch High School, for example, is doing Globe as part of what they call their Nations Project. So the students actually research the history and the culture of a particular country, and then they go to the Globe website, they find data, and then they try to compare. They actually then try to connect with students in that country as well. So key implementation ideas: make contact with another school early in the project if you can. Don't wait till the last minute, because there's always, there could be challenges in actually finding a good time to connect. And then explore in advance what you can actually learn from that exchange beyond just looking at data. So why do you want to connect with a particular country? What is it about that country that, or the other community might be across the river that you want to connect with? Students in Ohio compared their air temperature data with air temperature data in Vietnam and found that to be a really gratifying. And you can see their graph, which is from directly out of their project report. And they were actually able to connect with the students in Vietnam as well. So what you would want to document for this badge is what did you learn about comparing each other's data? Here they compared Vietnam and Ohio, and were able to link that with other data. But then what was also learned in addition to insights about the data? What did you learn about that other community, whether it was local or in another country? those provide an opening for students in the GLOBE program to think beyond science, in addition to science, right? To think about GLOBE as a real community with people with real lives, and as you all know, the economic life of a country or any community affects science and the kind of data that are being collected. So it helps students put the full picture together about what's going on with their data. Okay. So engineering solution. As you know, there are all kinds of students, and we want to encourage inquiry. We want to encourage traditional science, but we also want to encourage students to be problem solvers and to think about solving problems through using engineering design approaches. And this appeals to a whole variety of students. So and this also relates to community impact, and Matt will talk in a moment about how the badges can be sort of matched together. But we have students who really want to solve problems. We don't want them to solve problems prematurely without adequate data, but for many, it becomes very motivating to be able to actually solve a problem. And actually using engineering design processes is also becoming quite a pedagogical tool in many schools. Stanford University is a whole design school that teaches these engineering processes that are critical for entrepreneurship later on and application of science. So the key ideas here are to really promote kind of creative problem solving, which is brainstorming, prototyping, testing, and iterative cycles. The students in Croatia, in this example, assessed levels of heavy metal and air pollution using GLOBE protocols for aerosol conductivity and pH. And they realized that there were variations in air quality, and I started to identify a problem, noticing that air pollution was a big issue, and came to a conclusion that they could actually use their method for examining air pollution, not only in their community, but other parts of Croatia as well. So here, what you would want to be documenting is what is the problem and the solution that was arrived at, and particularly, and this is very important, what was the design process that was used to come up with a solution, and what tools were used. So beyond, it might even be beyond the GLOBE instruments, but having the students become intentionally aware of their own brainstorming, prototyping, and testing processes is really critical toward developing design thinking that's such a central part of engineering. Okay, next slide. And this is our final new badge. We're calling it Exploring STEM Careers. And the impetus behind this badge is, as you know, we have a shortage, at least in the United States, we have a shortage of STEM professionals. And both NASA and NSF are very supportive of any efforts to encourage a wide variety of students to try to enter science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. Toward that end, we want to really be more intentional about how STEM is used in the real world, provide students the opportunity to explore that, so that their classroom work is not divorced from their future aspirations and dreams. We want to include, again, another purpose would be to include STEM career exploration as part of the project, and expand the understanding of their role in STEM careers. And it may be that there will be students who will not want to become scientists. Maybe there will be journalists, or there'll be policy analysts, or there'll be policy makers. But where the understanding of the underlying science is absolutely critical to their ability to be good journalists and good policy makers. So rather than students abandoning science and saying, oh, I'll just do something else, we give them the opportunity to really understand how their understanding of science can be leveraged in a whole variety of both STEM and out of STEM careers. So a key implementation idea is that you actually have students interact with STEM professionals or do research about STEM careers as it is related to their project. You want to be able to discuss the the possible careers that would be related to the project that they're doing. In the examples here, we have an ornithologist who was working at a new globe site in New Mexico, and we have a researcher from UC Berkeley who built and installed a sensor that captures data 24/7, and those data are being compared with students' globe data. But these are a variety of just two very small examples. And again, in California, we actually have graduate students and other STEM professionals from local STEM-related agencies, Air Quality Management District, for example, that have come into our classrooms and spoken to the students about the kind of work that they're doing and encouraged them to link their globe data collection to their thinking about how they might apply their globe learning in future careers. So what we would like to see, or some ideas for what you would want to document, would be how the skills used, whether it was collaboration, communication, data collection skills, project management skills, other kinds of investigation skills, use of tools and instruments, how those might be used in a variety of careers. Have the students be intentional in thinking about that. What other aspects of careers may be important to them? Do they get to work outdoors? We had one of our graduate students who came into our classrooms talked about how he was able to collect atmosphere samples by being on a plane, and just the sheer excitement of being able to fly on a plane to collect data was very energizing for the students in our classroom. And these are things that kids don't know about oftentimes unless a professional actually has the opportunity to explain it to them. And so we want students to actually then be able to actually talk to STEM professionals. Again, this relates to the STEM professional badge as well, but it's really focused on not just on the science, but what's required. How much time do you get to spend collecting data versus analyzing data? What does your typical day look like? These are the things that really make STEM careers real for students. It's not just an abstract idea, but really can be extremely motivating for students, especially if they have no other scientists in their families. So we want to make the options as tangible and real and concrete for students as possible so that they can move forward with confidence. Okay, I think we were going to pause here and see if there were any questions about any of these individual badges. Julie, do we have time to do that?
Yes, definitely. You have to type in the chat window. So in the bottom screen, there's a chat button option if you'd like to ask any questions.
Okay, and if we don't have any, we can just go on. Okay. And of course, the GIO is always open to questions after the fact if you're seeing this in a recorded version. Okay.
I put the email address for the community support team in the chat window too. It's help@globe.gov.
So Matt, why don't you go on and talk about the combination of badges if we don't have any questions right now.
Okay, thanks Svetlana for introducing all the badges, including the new Exploring STEM Careers badge. It's really exciting. I wanted to talk about how students might see connections between these badges. Hopefully, as you're watching this, you're already starting to think about how the badges might overlap. And Svetlana, you even mentioned in the case of the engineering solution, how there was also a community impact. So there are definitely as many combinations of badges as you can possibly think of. I just wanted to highlight a few. So some obvious ones: if you're doing an interscholastic connection, you're automatically collaborating. And so really all you need to do for that badge is describe both the advantages of collaboration and the advantages of working across schools or across countries, and how having people in different locations helps answer your research questions. Connecting to a STEM professional could be one part of the community impact. If you're really going to work with the community, you'll want to find out who else is already working on these problems or who has documented these problems. So for example, if it's the air pollution in Croatia. Certainly there are other people who are interested in the air pollution. In the example that we just showed on the previous slide, we had a engineer with a sensor cluster that's used to measure air quality in the Bay Area. And so there's a whole group of folks who are working on that problem. So if that was something that interested you, you'd definitely have both the opportunity to connect to the STEM professional as well as build your project around this community issue and community impact. As well, connecting with a STEM professional doubles with the Exploring STEM Careers badge, and so really it's almost the same thing, except that you're focused slightly different in that you're expanding on how the work that you're doing is related to that career versus just simply collaborating with the STEM professional, which by itself is an amazing experience for students, but to take that another step into the careers. Or if in that example, you're not connecting to a STEM professional, but you're aware of who's doing the research out in the field around that community issue, you can certainly use that opportunity to talk about the STEM careers and how your work is related to those careers if you don't have the opportunity to make that connection directly. And so then that covers the fourth bullet there, which is connecting to a STEM professional and exploring the careers. Certainly, if you're connecting to a STEM professional, you've got a lot of opportunity to talk to them about their career and how the work that you're doing is overlaid with the work that they're doing in their career. And then the last, and this is just the 5 really obvious ones. The last one is the engineering solution and exploring STEM careers. Certainly, if you're working on solving a problem and taking that engineering design lens that Svetlana talked about, you're definitely doing the kinds of work that engineers do. And so it's just another step to take that engineering solution and think about how your work relates to the work that professional engineers do or other STEM professionals. So as you're working with students, we'd like you to encourage your students to think of creative ways to address multiple badges. It should be very straightforward to come up with a couple of badges, or at least 2, maybe 3 of those badges. We wanted to also emphasize that students are expected to describe how the project addresses each of the optional badges you selected. And we wanted to use one example of a presentation format. This is a poster template that's up on the Globe website that students can use if they choose to do a poster as their mode of presentation. It's not the only way to go. Students can do other things to present their information, such as short videos, or they could use a presentation like PowerPoint and talk while they're recording that PowerPoint. That could be their presentation. But they should include in there some description of how students see the connection between their work and the badge or badges that they picked, and really talk about how they're earning that badge in their report document. So if you go to this template, you'll see a short description of each of the badges, as well as that sentence emphasizing that students should do that description. So that's all we have about badges. We'll just say a little bit about the timeline. You should be looking for an announcement soon for when entries will be accepted. Projects should be
really quick. They are being accepted now.
Oh, they are. Thank you, Julie.
Yes.
So that's open. Projects should be submitted by the 3rd of April, and then we'll have a short period for judges to score and enter comments, and for students to respond to those comments. And then we'll have the live drawing and badges announced on the 15th of May. Qualifying projects, again, any project that earns the 4-star student research badge and at least 2 optional badges will be entered into a drawing for travel support to the Globe annual meeting in Connecticut in July, August of 2017. And if you're looking for information online, here's where you can find it at the Science Symposium page on the Globe website, or follow these set of links. And stay tuned for other webinars. And actually, we just did the more in-depth look into badges, so that's the one we just did.
Yep.
Okay, thanks everyone for participating and for listening today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks, Matt and Svetlana. That was great. If there are any questions, be sure to put in the chat window. I'm going to stop the recording now, but we'll make sure to add any questions to the FAQs as they come up. Okay.